Charlie is a city veteran under the setting sun, handing over the last oily bags of pastries to a woman with wrinkly arms that shake like uncooked meat. It is a city that simmers in its best and worst when the rotting bell strikes 4. A yolk haze perfumes its walls, and children in skirts and shirts stuck with sweat unstrap their shoes and door frames. It is when the cafe dwellers sip lukewarm cups in the gentle rays and stare into thinning crowds. It is when unseen bodies behind store counters roll their sleeves to clean and curate for the next day. Into the Mediterranean, the sun begins its freefall, and a soft warm exhales onto Charlie's culinary hole in the wall. He scrubs stainless steel surfaces with old bristles and green soap with a ruthless vigor. The pots and pans and Pjanci trays for white pastries filled with smooth cheese or pea that bloom in ovens bright in beige and gold and mauve. He writes down his orders in pencil. Sacks of flour and lard, bottles of beer, small chocolates for restless children that tug at their mother's skirts, and napkins to swab the grease off the sides of saliva mouths. It takes the minute hand a whole 10 and a half until all is ready and the great checklist is made and chores are crossed off. Upon the hills of the medieval city, the last green ray flirts with the limestone walls, just as the sun yolk bursts into light and plunges. Some look up to it, some keep their head down, devoted to their duties. Charlie takes his flowered blue apron off and chucks it onto the front counter, staring into nothing. His ears melt into the silence, his frazzling thoughts press and fold themselves neatly into the crevices of his churned mind. Charlie closes the front shutter, the color of faded azure, first opened at 6 in the morning, and returns to the kitchen. This is space carved out for uninterrupted solace, the time of the day which motivates him to get on with his daily toil. The wooden kitchen door is closed with a gentle thud, and Charlie moves to lean his Pjanci upright on the walls of silver counters. He turns to face his industrial oven, the size of 2 tall men standing hip by hip, standing to alchemize his raw creations into flavored fuel before the sun rises each day. In this little sanctuary, he places his head inside the oven's mouth, turning its knob to a function with a scratched-out symbol. In a squat, he holds his breath to let brain traffic bleed away with the blows of heat and metaphysical chemicals that whirl in smoke rings around his wrinkled head. A timer pierces the air after a quarter of an hour, slinging and signaling the end of cooking time. The smoke around him disappears, sucked into his skin and subconscious, and the room spins in a slow clockwork spell. This is his personal portal, to speak to his greatest friends, his Pjanci, lined up on the walls in pairs on L-shaped counters, a metal-clad audience. His eyes fix upon them with longing kindness, while the smoke swirls into his veins like molten ecstasy, and a warmth enters his chest like seeing old friends who make you feel like time stands still. "What will we speak about today?" Charlie asks, sliding down to the floor opposite his rusty friends. The rust shapes shift into forms that resemble himself, his posture and head slouched against cabinets where he sits. "That is up to you," a unified voice says. He sifts to the light bulbs in his mind, questions that bubble at the surface. Which bubble to verbalize? What is the point of this life, a life cemented into the same routine, in devotion to strangers and regulars that are no different? Is giving yourself to others a noble pursuit? Are dreams of abandon selfish and inward-looking? Charlie stops shouting and speaks to them through his blistering thoughts. I want to press this face to your blood rust feel. Patterns form while you take my core away. To catch sands blowing in afternoon stills. Off beating coast near Pollock scribbles. Away from the slow death rhythm of car smoke. Ketchup blood bellies bumping up and down hills. To a woman who strokes me but turns away in the moon. To static radio voices churning solid nothing. I want to eat mouth and sleep in my own brain. I want never, always. I always, never. He smiles like a sucked iceberg and leaves.